Thank you to 80,000 Hours, a project of Effective Ventures for supporting PBS. 17 million years ago, in the woodlands of Argentina, a predator crept ever closer to its unsuspecting prey. Its eyes were locked on a small herbivore taking delicate bites out of the bushes. But this was not a familiar predator. Neither big cats nor wolves had evolved yet. Instead, it was the otter-shaped Arctodictis, a 2-meter-long marsupial. And the animal it stared hungrily at was Thoatherium, a half-meter-tall plant-eater with no living descendants. Now, if this were a nature documentary, you know that this could only go one of two ways, right? Either Thoatherium would be toast, or it would escape. And these little guys and their relatives are sometimes called false horses for their hoofed horse-like legs, so a speedy escape was a definite possibility, in theory. But, I don't know if you know this, running is a terrible adaptation for living in the woods. It works well in open terrain where animals can gain speed across vast distances, but finding a clear path in thick, brushy woodlands is much harder. Today, most animals with similar adaptations to Thoatherium live in open grasslands. But these landscapes didn't dominate until the Pliocene, some 5 million years ago, when grasslands came to cover close to 30% of North America, around the same time as grasslands exploded in Argentina, too. And Thoatherium didn't live 5 million years ago, it lived 17 million years ago. So how did this false horse and its relatives survive when they seemed to be adapted for an ecosystem that didn't exist yet?
We recently partnered with toy designer David Silva to create a scientifically accurate articulated figure of a woolly mammoth. The campaign kicks off next month, but you can follow our backer kit at the link in the description.
The story of Thoatherium starts nearly 66 million years ago, during a family breakup. Thoatherium was a member of the order Litopterna, which were weird, hoofed mammals from South America, most of whom had long limbs and few toes. Their features were so strange that in the early 1900s, scientists called their legs and toes inadaptive modification, basically saying that they were a bizarre mutation and weren't really shaped by evolution at all. Which is kind of silly when you think about it, considering that they share these traits with perissodactyls, the group that includes horses, rhinos, and tapirs. Both groups are herbivores, both have hooves, and both tend to have an odd number of toes, 5, 3, or 1. So it's no surprise that they are related. But that relationship ended in the smoking crater of a dinosaur-killing asteroid around 66 million years ago, and the two groups didn't spend much time together after that. While perissodactyls spread across Eurasia and North America, Litopterns stayed in the southern hemisphere. The earliest Litoptern fossils we've found so far are nearly 63 million years old, from Patagonia. Over their 60 million year lifespan, this group split into 9 families and spread out across South America. One of these families was the Prototheriidae, or first beasts. This was a family that contained Thoatherium and its other small-bodied cousins. And despite Thoatherium first appearing more than 40 million years after Litopterna broke up with the ancestors of horses and rhinos, they still had some stunning similarities, like they both hated toes. The trend of toe loss is strongest in the Prototheriidae, aka the false horses. All of the members of this family have some sort of monodactyly, which means that they bear their weight on one single toe, like modern horses do. In some cases, this meant that they only had one toe per limb, like Thoatherium, but in others, they were functionally monodactyl. This means that they had 3 toes, but carried their weight exclusively on the middle one. The side toes were smaller and weren't used much. Horses lost their toes as grasslands expanded in North America, having one main toe by just over 10 million years ago, while Prototheriids lost toes much earlier, leading to full monodactyly by about 20 million years ago. Okay, but why lose toes at all? Well, for animals with hooves, there are a lot of good reasons to get rid of extra toes, and weirdly, most of them are linked to grass, specifically to how grass and grasslands change an ecosystem. The most obvious change with grasslands is that animals lose cover and places to hide. But grasses change a lot more than that, right down to the dirt itself. Instead of the soft, muddy soil that you see in forests, grasslands are typically hard, solid surfaces, held together by thousands of small roots. And the stability hypothesis suggests that hard soil and toe loss are connected. Essentially, the idea is that having lots of toes is only advantageous on softer ground. Think of it like snowshoes, but for mud. Big, wide feet help keep you from sinking. But when the ground is hard and flat, that wide foot isn't helpful anymore. Instead, skinnier feet and fewer toes become more advantageous. A second hypothesis deals with being efficient. See, when grasslands spread, they tend to leave resources and hiding spots distributed across vast distances. Horses and Litopterns also have relatively long legs, and they walk on the tips of their toes like hoofed ballerinas, if that helps you. This makes them faster and less prone to stubbing toes. Isn't that something? There's a Disney movie in there, Hoofed Ballerinas. And having longer limbs that weigh less makes their movement more efficient. The idea that this causes toe loss is called the locomotor economy hypothesis. Now, is it just me? I say this like every other episode. Paleontology is chock full of great unused band names. Locomotor economy hypothesis. I think I saw them in Seattle in like 92, you know? But while these two hypotheses seem to work for horse evolution, they don't match the pattern or timing of toe loss in Ledopterans. Ledopterans are preserved in fossil forests, ecosystems that have neither hard ground nor great distances to travel for resources. So if toe loss isn't linked to grasslands, then what could it be? Well, a final hypothesis for losing toes has to do with body size. Bigger bodies need better support, especially against bending forces which could cause their bones to snap. Strong single digits resist that force better than multiple skinny digits because of physics, which may partially explain why horses evolved larger sizes at the same time as they lost toes. But many Ledopterans weren't very big, and Thoatherium, the most horse-like of the false horses, was a measly 30 kilograms at most. And another piece of the mystery is that, unlike their toes, Thoatherium's teeth are far better adapted to eat bushes than grass. Why be adapted for life in the grass when you don't even eat it, especially when your bones seem to be found in the woods? The key may lie in an unexpected difference between North America and South America. Thoatherium and many other Ledopteran fossils come from Patagonia, a region of Argentina with a rich fossil record that shows incredible change over time. As mountains grew and shifted and the planet slowly cooled, Patagonia's ecosystem followed suit. In the Eocene epoch, around 56 to 34 million years ago, fossils show an incredible diversity of plant life, including massive rainforests, and, weirdly, also quite a lot of grass. That in and of itself isn't too unexpected. Grass has existed since the early Cretaceous. But what hasn't existed until a lot more recently is grass thick enough to change the environment entirely. But in Patagonia, we see patches of mollisols, a type of soil that only forms when you have pretty thick grass. Those don't show up in North America until the Oligocene, some 11 to 20 million years after they appear in Patagonia. But we see in the Eocene of Patagonia both grass and tropical rainforests in the exact same formations at the exact same time. A weird contrasting pattern that also continues throughout the Oligocene, 34 to 23 million years ago. And as the Oligocene gave way to the Miocene epoch, from 23 to 5 million years ago, forests were still present but shrinking, while the grasslands were growing. In North America, most formations just have one or the other, so how can you have a region that has both? It's called a mosaic landscape. This is still common in some regions of South America today, where patches of forest are interspersed with patches of grassland. This means that instead of evolving in a place with vast open plains or dense impenetrable forest, Ledopterans evolved in a place that had both. One type of mosaic landscape is called a gallery forest, where forests grow along the rivers and waterways, but are separated by broad patches of open land. Also in gallery forests, the first Friday of every month, they have like the boxed wine and the little cheese and crackers that's open to the public, but then after that you have to. Thoatherium may have lived in this kind of forest, which could explain its adaptations. Its home was a region that was slowly drying up, but still retained patches of lush forest, full of tasty leaves that were a lot easier to eat than the silica and grit-filled grass. But those forests weren't continuous, so being able to quickly cross stretches of open grasslands to find safety and food in a neighboring chunk of forest would still have been advantageous. And while we don't have an estimate for how fast Thoatherium was, there's some research that suggests its other bigger relatives could reach sprinting speeds of around 40 kilometers an hour over short distances. That's not quite as fast as a horse, but still plenty fast. So Ledopterans like Thoatherium may have essentially adapted to cross an environment they didn't live or eat in, grasslands, to get to the environment that they did live and eat in, forests. It's almost like if you imagine whales as land dwellers who just swam in between islands so much that swimming became really important. Their seemingly inexplicable mosaic of features may have been a direct result of the mosaic of the landscape. Some adaptations were for life in the forests, while others were focused on navigating the grasslands to get to those forests. And when we look at evolution, especially adaptations to habitats, we have to keep in mind that not all places follow the same trends. Much of the initial research on Ledopterans and other South American fossils came from the United States, where people were used to the vast expanses of grasslands and open prairies that characterized North America. So when they looked at South America, they expected to see the same trends, so they were confused when the fossil animals didn't seem to follow those same patterns. The lesson of Thoatherium is that animals may have evolved similar traits for very different reasons, or the same ones under different circumstances. And sometimes understanding why requires adjusting your own expectations. Because it just might be that, for some adaptations, what's between habitats is just as important as the habitat itself. Thank you to 80,000 Hours, a project of Effective Ventures for supporting PBS. 80,000 Hours is a nonprofit that aims to help people have a positive impact with their career, especially if you're interested in science and tech. In an average career, you'll work 40 hours a week, 50 weeks a year for 40 years. That adds up to 80,000 hours, and how you spend that time is a very important decision for you and the impact you can have on the world. So 80,000 Hours offers research-backed guides for how to find careers that tackle pressing issues, a podcast where they have in-depth conversations with experts on these issues, as well as a curated job board they keep up to date with jobs they think will make a difference. Everything they provide is free, and their only aim is to help you find a fulfilling, high-impact career. To learn more, go to 80000hours.org. Our relationship with horses has changed a lot over the past 30,000 years or so check out our episode How Horses Went from Food to Friends to learn more. We gotta thank this month's totally awesome eontologists. That's really only funny if you see it written out loud. T-O-E, totally, is how Callie wrote it.
Addie, Annie and Eric Higgins, Carl Wolfel, Jake Hart, John Davison Ing, Juan M., Melanie Lamb Carnevale, and Raphael Hassa.
Become an Eonite at patreon.com/eons and get fun perks like behind-the-scenes photos, puzzles, and special secret videos from our team. Subscribe at youtube.com/eons for journeys in deep time, and thanks for watching. But finding a clear path in thick, brushy woodlands is much harder. Brushy? Did I just invent a word? Brushy? Like bushy and brushy?
Yeah, it sounded like it was somewhere in between.